And in the studio with a gentleman I'm describing first before telling you his name. High-achieving change agent, LinkedIn profile, and strategic visionary with diverse general management experience, which I know a bit about now, board experience in large, complex, multinational company, and experience as chairman and non-executive director. Strong leadership capability in managing cross-functional, diverse teams, always open to new opportunities and experiences like speaking to Purbeck Coast. David Sidwick, welcome.
Good morning, and thank you for that. When you write your CV for various jobs, you never realise it's going to be read out on the radio.
That's the first thing I go to in terms of checking out guests. LinkedIn is such a gift because you're going to turn up top of the search engine for LinkedIn.
Ah, well, there we go.
There
we go.
Word to the wise.
Yes, absolutely. You should probably ask me what I like to do, and it's board games, and I eat donuts and all those sorts of things. Far more interesting.
Yeah. What's your favourite donut then? Got a flavour?
It's got to be a straight jam.
Yeah?
Yeah, absolutely.
Keep it simple.
English, donut, jam. Thank you.
So, scones.
Yes.
Scones or scones?
Well, firstly, I'd say scones.
Cream or jam first?
Oh, for God's sake, the Devon way, whichever way that is.
Exactly. Good.
Because I think that's also the Dorset way, if we're honest.
Yes.
Yeah, it got corrupted when it went across the Tamar, is that right?
To all our Cornish listeners, we love you, and we'll do it the right way when we come and see you, because we're listening to round the way. I was thinking you were a bit like a goalkeeper, aren't you? You've got a tough vocation, you can't really win, but you can stop bad things happening. Is that fair?
That's a pretty fair way of putting it, though I'd say, actually, we are winning.
I think you are. I'm going to talk about Luke. I'm a fan of Luke, so would you like to start with telling us about your music, and then we'll get the first question after your first track. I'm loaded up, top loader for you.
Oh, brilliant. So this is a track which has intense meaning for me. It was the first dance I ever did with my wife. It was at a...
Let's give her a shout out.
If you're listening, Ruthie. It's a pain... we were at a pain conference together, and this was...
Pain conference?
A pain conference. My background's the pharmaceutical industry.
Of course, yes.
And my business, after being in the pharmaceutical industry for a number of years, my business was medical education. And we were at this pain conference running a symposium for a client. And the evening was dinner, and then there was a dance at the Railway Museum in York.
Oh.
Which is a fabulous place.
Mallard?
If you haven't been to. Oh, Mallard's brilliant.
Yes.
Absolutely brilliant.
It's been years. I saw it as a kid.
Yeah, absolutely. Love that. So,
so you danced in the moonlight?
Well, yeah, she told me she couldn't dance, and she lied. And therefore, it was me doing the dad dancing, as is my wont. I am to dancing what Wayne Sleep is to rugby, but my wife very clearly is very, very good at it. So that's why I remember. This was the music that we first danced to.
Another great track in a minute or two or three, because you've done amazing things in Swanage, haven't you, in the Purbeck? So, listeners, thank you for sending in your questions. We're going to honour your questions, but first we're going to set the scene with things like Luke and the Hub. And so, David, the police hub.
The police hub. Yes, indeed. You're talking about the front office,
yes,
as I refer to
our point of contact.
Yes, absolutely. So look, if I take a moment just to frame where all this came from, when I wanted to become Police and Crime Commissioner, it wasn't done on a whim. I got grumpy about a number of things. I'm not going to go into them, it takes too long. But then I started, and for 3 years, my amazing wife decided to go back to work to give me the time so as I could full-time campaign for 3 years.
Ruth, isn't it?
Yeah. So for 3 years,
bless her,
I did two things. I found out what a PCC did, because it's one of the worst explained jobs on the planet.
I have no idea.
No, I thought you didn't. So here we go.
They look good in uniform.
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. It's not a police job.
Yeah, you can't arrest, can you?
No, this job should never be done by a police officer,
yes,
right?
Yeah.
It is. There are three things, in my view, which this job is about. One is you've got your own money, so you can do a bit with that. may talk about that later. You have a responsibility to get money.
Yes.
So to make certain the force has enough money to operate in an efficient and effective way. But the most important thing is you hold the police to account. Now, the legend, right, and the myth that everybody understands is I can fire the chief constable, but anybody in business knows that if you fire your chief executive, it's broken down, the relationship's been rubbish for years. That's the last thing you want to do. How you hold them to account is through something called the Police and Crime Plan. And when I looked at it in Dorset, the Police and Crime Plan did not fit with what the people were telling me. And the one thing they said was they wanted their policing more visible, connected and engaged. Didn't matter whether that was Swanage, didn't matter whether it's Sturminster Newton, didn't matter wherever it was.
Visible, connected, engaged.
Correct.
Right.
And that comes down to a number of things. It comes down to the engagement of the police. Now remember, when I took over, we were still in COVID. And COVID made the police draw back.
Of course.
Because they couldn't engage with the public. You know, they couldn't go to the parish meetings they used to. They couldn't go to the town council meetings. They couldn't do those sorts of things.
So the visible and connected
was probably at its
and engaged.
It was probably at its lowest.
Yes.
So I made it part of the Police and Crime Plan. It's the oil tanker. If I'm honest, it's the hardest thing to affect, but we're getting there. There are now 72 contact points across Dorset. So in some places, it wasn't a front office which was required. It was a contact point, a regular place where the police would be so you could go and talk to them.
Good.
So in one place in Dorset, we tried a front office. It didn't work. It became a contact point. It's working well.
Yes.
But there are some places, I believe, where a front office is absolutely the right thing. And Swanage is one of them.
Especially in that location with the town hall and...
Well, correct.
It's iconic.
Yeah, correct. Well, now you've said a word, iconic. I use the word talismanic.
Yeah.
Because when we actually look at...
That's because I can spell iconic.
I didn't say I could spell.
What's talismanic?
So a talisman is something that somebody has,
You
which
touch
they hold,
and save.
touch and save and keeps it safe.
Yeah.
So, so the point about this was very clearly Swanage was a place which needed a front office. Now the front offices were closed, and they were closed for economic reasons. So how do you square this circle? Mm-hmm. How do you square the circle of economy versus what the people want? And that's why we've brought it back. We've brought it back as a pilot to see if it can be made to work.
And did you fight for that?
Oh God, I fought for that.
Yeah.
From the point of view of when I came into office, I said to the police, I want front offices open. I want you to do a strategic review across the whole of Dorset in order to get this done. And it took too long, in my view. It took 18 months to 2 years before we were able to grip it. And the Swanage one I pushed over the line at the meeting in the church.
Oh, the Methodist church, yes.
In the Methodist church.
So in front of the... Did you spring that on them?
I said I had an ambition to open the Swanage front office and went back and said, right, when are we going to do it?
Wow.
So that has been done now. I'm very clear that that is the right thing.
Yeah.
I know that people will be disappointed it's not 5 days a week, but there are so many places across Dorset who would also want a front office.
Yeah.
And 2 days a week, if we can't make it work for 2 days a week, there's no way it would work for 5 days a week. So this pilot is open. It's going to be open until the end of the summer.
Good.
And that's really important to me.
Our population shifts.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Dynamic
Exactly.
completely changes.
Exactly. So it's got to stay during the high demand area. That's exactly the right thing to do. That's what we're going to do. And the other thing also, which the people of Swanage were very keen on, was the fact they wanted more police officers. Mm. And since I was in there have been more police officers. So we now have got to the stage that in Dorset there's 174 extra. And these are really extra. Sometimes people say to me, are these just replacing retirements?
Yeah.
These are really, really extra police officers. We were asked to get 166 by the government, and I was able to get more, 174. So they're now beginning to be in place. Last September, I stood in front of the largest training course ever for Dorset, and they're coming out across the piece. And that will affect everybody, right? That will be good for everybody.
Yeah.
So it's 2 days a week.
And that's really important. So if I was a criminal, what I'd do is come down to Swanage on the days it's not open.
And that would be really not smart, because the police would still get you. Because the front office is there not to be full of police officers, but to service the needs of the public.
I'm just queuing up the gambler. So if you're a naughty felon listening to this, that's not going to work. We're going to play the gambler. Kenny Rogers, story from this?
Story from this is one of the things that I've only taken one national job, right? Which is to be the co-lead of the addiction and substance misuse portfolio.
Right.
That's because the biggest issue that Dorset faces is drugs.
Yes.
And with my pharmaceutical background, obviously that's if you like, my special subject on Mastermind.
Mm-hmm.
From the point of view of addiction, there's one missing that nobody talks about, and that's gambling, harmful gambling. You think about it, there's an intersection between drugs, alcohol, gambling. There's also an intersection between some of the offences, such as domestic abuse and gambling. So it's not been gripped. It wasn't in any portfolio. We said it's completely logical to be in ours. We have changed the game. We've now got it being assessed in custody. When somebody comes into custody, they're asked about drugs, they're asked about alcohol. They're also in Dorset now asked about gambling. And we're doing that across the national piece. And we've actually started a national task force on harmful gambling, which didn't exist before. So that's why it's important, because it's the one really new thing. Everything else is stuff that we know about. This is the hidden one.
Back in the studio with David. David, we'd love that pilot to transform itself into a permanent fixture. The front desk.
So would I.
What can we do?
Well, use it.
Yep. So donuts, tea and coffee, Mondays and Fridays, delivered to the front desk.
No, that's not going to work. That's not going to work. No, I'm afraid, look, this is the intersection between hard economics and the needs of the people. So, I've been very clear that in this place, for Swanage, the people have spoken, they should have their front office.
Yes.
But we have a situation in Dorset where we are the second worst funded force in the country when it comes to the national grant.
Wow.
We have to make certain that every penny counts.
How did they work that out then?
The national funding formula was put in place in the late 90s. And I don't know if it was deliberate, but it absolutely serves the large metropolitan areas such as Birmingham, London, Greater Manchester, etc.
Which it has to. So rural areas like this?
It doesn't take into account, or didn't take into account, sparsity, which is being able to police across a rural area.
Yeah.
Or, critically for us here, seasonality. So we don't get an extra penny for the large volume of visitors we get in the summer. Now, there's a number of implications around that. One, it means we have to stretch everything to basically accommodate what the police have to do for those visitors. But it also has a really wicked thing in that the individual demand on an individual officer in the summer is one of the highest, if not the highest, in the country. And that's obviously a concern to me, because I need them to be doing their thing.
Yeah.
So what I've done is I've lobbied the government relentlessly, not just the politicians, but also the Home Office directly, to the extent they had a specific meeting with me about this, and made the point that sparsity and seasonality has to be taken into account in the next funding formula when they change it. To give you an idea of the perversity of it, one of the factors they take into account at the moment is the density of pubs. Well, the density of pubs works extremely well if you're in the centre of Birmingham.
Oh, we did quite well here.
Yeah, you do. But across the whole of Dorset, right, the road between Sherborne and Dorchester, you don't have that many pubs on it. You see the difference.
Yes, gotcha.
So I've basically won that argument with my other PCCs, and they are going to change it next time they change the funding formula.
Good.
And now I'm saying, please get on with it.
Yeah.
Quite robustly.
I suppose you have to be proactively catalytic, going back to your chemistry and pharmaceutical background all the time.
Yeah, you've got to be on it all the time. Every chance I get, every time I'm with the policing minister, I will make a point about funding in one way or another. Because we don't get a good enough deal, and I believe we should get a better deal, and I'm going to keep fighting for it.
Yeah. Talk to me about rural crime, because there's been some shifts in the results you've been getting.
Yes, when I came into office, firstly, rural crime wasn't a priority, but it is now. We had a rural crime team of 3 before I came into office. We now have a rural crime team of 18, and they are knocking it out the park. The National Farmers Union Mutual do an annual survey of the cost of crime across the UK. Now, rural crime has gone up 22% across the UK. In Dorset, it's gone down 28%. Crime itself, rural crime itself, has also gone down. I have been with these guys. They've got over £1.3 million worth of goods back from the bad guys, and started giving it back to the farmers and those whose goods it were. And these are tractors, this is farm machinery, this is generators, this is ATVs, this is all the things which have been pinched. And let's be honest, there's another factor here. If a tractor is pinched, that's then on a ferry across to Europe and further places. That is organised crime.
Yes.
If 20 sheep are taken out of a field, that's not somebody's Sunday lunch next door to you. That's organised
That's all planned,
crime.
premeditated, organised. Yep.
Regarding hair coursing, we know instances where somebody has got a laptop and they're filming the hair coursing. That's gambling on an industrial scale.
Back to your addiction, yeah.
Organised crime. So having a rural crime team of 18 gives us a capability to start taking the fight to those organised crime groups. And we've done a couple of other things as well. One is that rural crime team, being so superb, have won a national award. This is a national award for innovation against organised crime gangs. So you're up against the Met, the Greater Manchester, etc. And they won the award for what they were doing, which is absolutely brilliant. But we haven't rested. One of the great differences that we're able to bring as PCCs is we're able to collaborate. And the 5 PCCs in the Southwest collaborate extremely well. And we're collaborating on something now called Operation Ragwort, which is a rural crime operation across the 5 counties to make certain that we truly understand the intelligence and bring the fight to how goods are moved between the counties and outwards.
Brilliant.
So we are really improving rural crime, and we're going to continue to do so.
Excellent. I think, with all due respect, David, you're missing the main point here, which is they have a tractor. A police tractor is absolutely super cool. I go to Open Farm Sunday, which is one of my favourite events, and I'm looking at this thing and I go, is that a police tractor? And they said, yeah.
So I'm so pleased that you like the tractor.
Oh, I want to drive it.
Yeah, just to reassure people, that is not actually on the books of Dorset Police. Because its capability in pursuit is not that great.
No.
So
rough terrain, quite helpful.
Yeah, well, well, that was the other thing. We didn't really have a true 4x4 capability, but we do now.
Excellent. So I'm going to ask you a question we'll answer after the next song. So this is from Tina. Can you confirm how many hours and the shift pattern of our police officer? We'll come back to that after the break. I want to talk about sustainability. So we've got we've got a presence in Wareham 24/7.
That's right. Last year a patrol base was put in Wareham, which was reintroduced with 12 dedicated officers working 24/7 in order to cover the Purbeck area. So that will cover not just Wareham, it will obviously cover Swanage as well. Now look, there's a thing here. What I'm very keen, and what I did with Dorset Police, was I challenged them about their response times.
Yeah.
Particularly response times to 999. That means there is now a continuous process to improve the answering of 999, and we're getting up to the late 80s, 90% of calls being answered in 10 seconds. which is much better than where we were. This summer we were on average about 85%. The summer before we were about 75%. So that's much improved. But it's something else as well, because it's not just the call, it's the dispatch and the time that an officer gets to wherever they need to get to. And so I challenged the whole process. And Dorset Police are now getting to 999 calls 10% quicker. So that means they've reviewed where their patrol bases are and everything else. And it's also meant that in one area they've actually reopened a police station as a patrol base, which they didn't have before, in order to make that happen. So Wareham's been brought back, reintroduced, 12 dedicated officers for Purbeck. So it's not just the police station here, it's also making certain that there is more police officers in order to cover Purbeck and for the people.
Brilliant. So 999 brings up the topic of reporting. One of the issues is people are thinking we've got no police in Swanage. I mean, where did that come from? So they're reporting negative things on the internet, which encourages crime. And then people are saying, well, let's not report it because the police won't do anything. So,
well, look,
let's get on the soapbox about that.
So, well, look, the only way to be certain the police won't do anything is not to tell them about things.
Exactly.
So, reporting is really vital for two reasons. One, it drives resources, and the police will reallocate resources to hotspot areas. But also, more importantly, and this is really critical for a lot of the things that people care about, a lot of the crimes where it's what I would call a quality of life crime which affects people in their communities. Yeah. And of that, I would say there's drug dealing and, for example, shoplifting. For those sorts of crimes, it's really quite difficult to actually catch the perpetrator. So what you need is a range of evidence. That's intelligence which comes from reporting.
From reporting.
Now, right. Reporting, there's more than two ways to do it. We had a very clunky website which wasn't really working well for us. That's changed. That changed last March. We're now on something called Single Online Home. This is a national website solution which over 80% of the British population are on, and 35 police forces. So it is much better. From the point of view of actually delivering an efficient overall response.
Would you say that title again then? What's it called? The system?
Well, the name of the system isn't important.
Okay.
It's the Dorset Police website, and it now uses this system. So, for an issue where there is a threat to life or limb, or there is a criminal act actually in process, there is a criminal around, that's 999. Everything else, you use the 101 system. And now look, there's two ways to use that. To go on the website and actually put in what you need to happen from the 101 process. I'll come back to that in a moment.
Yeah.
There is also a call 101. Now, the 101 system was put in place to be a system which joined up the police and the local authority. But in the end, when it came about, it became just the police. So there's a number of things which happen regarding reporting now. We get an awful lot of stuff coming through to Dorset Police which isn't about crime. Let me give you some examples. My girlfriend has left me. That's not an emergency. That's not a 999 call.
No, call Purbeck Coast. We'll look after you.
The McDonald's Deliveroo hasn't turned up. That's not a 999. No, I'm not. That's not a 999. No. Last year we had a gentleman who was jogging on the Purbecks and his Samsung phone called the police 80 times. Now, the police have to look at those calls. They've got a call from a number calling 999. They don't know if that's somebody who's desperate.
No.
Or something which didn't happen. That was the problem with Samsung phones, which got sorted. So we also have 75% of the call demand coming into Dorset Police is non-crime stuff.
75%?
Correct.
There's some funding opportunities there, aren't there, if we could get that down?
Correct. Which is why we're working hard on 101. So not this summer, the summer before, I think we were at 28 minutes average. Now we're at 15 minutes average, which is still too long, right?
Yeah.
But that's
not 999, that's 101.
That's 101.
Yeah.
So there's a couple of things here. One, we are trying to work with our partners to make certain that everybody knows what to report to whom. So, for example, if it's noise in a residential area, that's to the local authority, not to the police.
Well, in our close, we had 2 tyres let down last night, and I thought, well, there's probably kids mucking about. We live in a very, very nice place. So where do you report that sort of thing to?
That would be 101.
That's a 101.
That's a 101. Because I'll tell you why. Because, for example, vehicle theft, damage to vehicles, really difficult for the police to actually get the guys.
Yeah.
But how it happens is by getting the intelligence.
Yes.
And seeing a pattern.
Yeah.
That's part of
and
the things.
And there will be a pattern.
And eventually there will be. And eventually, then they will be able to do something about it.
So noise to the council.
Noise to the council. So, just winding back a little bit. If you are able to use online, please use the 101 service online. Go on to Dorset Police.
Because it will filter. Yes.
Yeah. And then that leaves the calls for those who aren't able to do that. The second thing I'll say, and this is really important, and this is a communication failure, which I've said to Dorset Police. When they introduced a single online system, they didn't do enough communication around it. Because there is a difference on the system between if you are a victim of crime. So if you're a victim of crime, something's happened to you and you want to tell the police about it, you use one tab on the website.
Right.
But if it's something which doesn't actually affect you, but you want to tell the police about it, reporting. So, drug dealing, shoplifting, and they've gone, all this sort of stuff, then use the report intelligence. There's an intelligence button on there.
You probably have to be intelligent to use it, though.
So this is the issue. So that's why I'm taking this opportunity. I'm making as much noise as possible about this. So there's a difference. There's a difference between the two, and I'll be doing more noise about this. I'm looking at actually putting out a piece of information, a PDF, a leaflet, which actually says this is how you do it. Excellent. This is how you report to the police.
And we can help with that.
That's brilliant. Thank you.
You've got time for one more question, and we'll have one more song, I think. And then it's been a really good interview. Thank you. Listeners, I haven't asked all your questions, and I'm going to give all your questions to the Commissioner. So you'll have a chance to have a response, but not on air. There's a whole lot of love in there. Anyway, Rosemary says, we pay you a lot of money to serve our community. All we get are broken promises. When will you police our town properly so that we can feel safe in our own homes and town?
Well, thank you, Rosemary.
Good honest question.
Good honest question. I'm going to give you a good honest answer. Regarding broken promises, at this moment in time, I'm very clear that I'm delivering for the people of Dorset. So let me tell you what my promises were. So one was to cut crime and antisocial behaviour. Crime is continually going down in Dorset. We've gone from the 10th safest place to the 7th safest place in the country. So that's one promise.
Does beg the question, where's the most safest place in the country? I'll look that up.
Absolutely. Well, I don't mind who it is because I'm coming after them.
Yes.
We want to be the safest place.
We want to be the safest.
So that's one promise which is being delivered. The second one was around antisocial behaviour. So that is 25% down from just before the pandemic. I looked at the figures for every section area, every beat area for Dorset Police. And 83% of the beat areas it was down in compared to 2021. Antisocial behaviour is a wicked problem. We have to be relentless about it. It means nothing if it happens outside your front door. But generally across the patch, we are getting it down.
And it concerns me for the students and pupils that are often involved because their life is going to go on a trajectory that gets to a point where they're almost guaranteed to do time, aren't they? So if we can deal with antisocial behaviour in a compassionate but firm way, I think we can change lives.
You are absolutely right about that. I mean, look, there's two groups of people who cause the majority of the antisocial behaviour in our county. One group is young people. We've got some great young people in Dorset. I know some of them very well. I've got Dorset Police Cadets, which I've quadrupled since I've been in office.
Yeah.
But I've also started something called Fix the Future, which is where I have a grant funding scheme to help youth clubs, to help sports facilities, to give opportunities to kids who are falling into criminality.
It's boredom, isn't it? So often, what do you want to do? I don't know. There's nothing to do in the town, so you go and be a pest.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Oh, I like that. Fix the future.
Yeah, absolutely. So if I continue with my promises.
Yeah.
One promise was the rural crime. I think I dealt with that earlier. Rural crime is down across Dorset and will continue to be so because we've invested in the officers. Drugs, we now have drug operations which are making a huge difference. Operation Scorpion, where the 5 PCCs in the southwest come together in order to fight drug dealing.
That really needs to be said in a Hollywood voice. You know that, don't you? Operation Scorpion.
I could also talk about Operation Viper.
Yeah.
Operation Viper is the operation locally in Dorset to counter county lines and community drug dealing.
Yeah.
And we have closed 42 county lines since April. We'll continue to do that. Now, the next promise that I'm going to keep is that we are going to address the issue of on-street drug dealing. Having lowered the threat,
right,
and we will keep on looking at county
minimising
lines.
The county
now
lines.
We need to go to the next stage. It is about promises. It is about delivering. I'm very clear that I put together a 7-year plan. We're 2 3/4 years in. I'm very clear that I mean to deliver it and make certain that we get there. Because I want to drive ASB down, I want to drive crime down, and I want to address the drug issue in our county to make certain that we absolutely are the safest place in the UK.
Last question, and then I'm going to ask you to share anything you'd like to. What do you view as the most important day-to-day responsibilities towards the community you serve? That's from Paul.
The most important
day in the life of a
day in the life. Look, every day's different. And it can be that I've got a day where I'm in London, where I am at a national meeting with the policing minister, and we're talking about drugs and that sort of thing, and I'm driving the...
So let's frame that as responsibility. So that responsibility is to...
That responsibility is to drive the issue of illegal gateway drugs, try and get more money into prevention to try and stop kids getting into it in the first place.
Yeah.
And I know that Dorset is the 9th highest for heroin and crack cocaine in the country. So my responsibility is to put drugs firmly on the national agenda as well as the local agenda to make certain that we get more resources into our county in order to address it. So that's a big deal.
Yeah.
But actually, one of the most important responsibilities I have is when I talk to the chief constable and I raise issues. And I'm not allowed to direct the force. I'm not allowed to say somebody's got to go there, somebody's got to go here. But what I am very good at is raising community concerns. And when a community has a concern, like the community of Swanage had around their lack of police station, I will raise it. And I will say, what are we going to do about it? Can we do anything with the resources we've got? If we can, we should. That is the most important responsibility, is to fight every day for the people of Dorset.
So you're an ambassador for the community to the police.
I'm elected by the community to serve the community and hold the police to account. That's what I do on a daily basis. That's why this job is really, really important. And that's why it's elected.
Vocation, isn't it? How's the best way to get our concerns to you then?
If they are an operational police concern, it's reporting in the way that I spoke about.
But from your responsibilities, you said there.
Yeah. If there is something that you want to contact me about, then please contact my office.
Yeah.
You'll find that I've got a website. You'll find there's a lot of information on that website. You also find out how to contact me.
Brilliant. You got a few seconds for your final words. What would you like to say?
Well, my final words are, help Dorset, please help you. Please report
Yep.
So as they have the intelligence in order to catch the criminals. The other thing I'll say is a very parochial one, but we talked about rural crime. We have started a neighbourhood watch for
recruitment then.
Yeah, rural mounted volunteers. If you have a horse,
really?
Mounted. There are areas of Dorset where the bad guys go, which we can't get there very easily by cars, and we've got rural mounted volunteers now. We've started that.
Yeah.
I'd like to recruit some more.
Yes, I know some riders.
Yes, please.
How exciting!
Please come and be part of that.
I'm assuming they don't have any power to take down the bad guys.
No, they don't I'm sorry.
But they look good on horseback.
And their intelligence is really, really important. And we've had 6 for a few months now, and they're really helping.
Do they get a badge?
They get equipment.
What's the most exciting thing you've ever done with the police? Because I have worked with the Met Police and went to their riot training centre, and there was this wonderful rioter at the front, and they said, "Oh yeah, that's Chief Constable so-and-so." They were using police to act as rioters to train.
It's one of two. It is either going through, well, not me, but
no, I'm talking about. Have you hung on to the rungs of a helicopter?
No.
Been in pursuit?
No.
What are you doing with your time then?
Look, I'm not a police officer. I never wanted to be a police officer. I don't want to do that.
No,
right?
Not the boats on the bay.
No. Well, I've been out in the police boat, and it is a really good thing.
Well, I recommend a riot. It's good fun.
The scariest thing I've done, right, is being in a police car on a country road, hurtling after a bad guy in the middle of the night.
Yeah.
That is pretty scary, right? Yeah. But those incredible officers and their competency at driving is without parallel. Without parallel.
My brother-in-law is retired now, but a custom officer, and he was trained in the motorcycle pursuit. So just exciting,
Yes.
Adventures.
Yes.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure to have you on the show.
Thank you for giving me the opportunity, and thank you to the people of Swanage and Purbeck.
And I'll make sure you get all the questions that...
Yeah, absolutely. We'll make certain we answer them.
Lovely.
And if it's not us, we'll get the force to answer them, because some of them may be operational.
Yes.